Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 2 of the 12-week challenge for unmasking authentically autistic. So last week, we talked about starting at the beginning and knowing where you are. There were a whole list of journal prompt questions for you to answer. They were pretty intense. Some of them you could answer pretty easily. Some of them you kind of could answer. There were others that some of you told me, I have absolutely no clue how to answer some of these questions. I've never even thought about them before. And then some of you have asked me, well, what's the point? Why do I need to know these things? Or how are these questions going to help me unmask? Your answer is this. They're establishing where you are right now, so that you become more aware. I'd like to get into a little bit more information because I feel like perhaps I did not convey clearly exactly what unmasking is and what the process is and why you start with these journal prompt questions and why the questions that you can't answer are more important than the ones you can answer. Instead of you having to look at me or be distracted by me, I'm going to put up a real pretty image for you to look at or just to kind of put in the background so you can focus on the information that I'm going to be giving you. So let's get to something a little better looking than me, huh? All right, so let's first start. Let's begin at the beginning, right? That's always the best place to begin, at the very beginning. So how does answering the journal questions, and specifically the question about action steps to close the gap on or questions that are hard to answer, how does that help to unmask? Well, first we have to define and answer what is unmasking. How does it happen? Why does it happen? And how do we end up getting stuck in a mask in the first place? This is my definition. This is what I have experienced in my life, and this is how I define unmasking. Unmasking is removing the social mask that you have employed for years in order to fit in. That social mask has consumed so much of your daily energy, calculating, recalculating, adjusting, observing, doing it all over again for the next situation and environment, all the while putting your true self on hold. You never even get a real chance to figure out who you are or how you really feel about something because you are too consumed just trying to fit in, fly under the radar, or just not stand out. For most of us, this process gets into full swing when we hit middle school. That's when all the rules we thought we'd figured out go into full-on chaos. From one moment to the next, one day to the next, the social landscape is in constant flux. When we hit around 10 or 11, things start to really change. Childhood provides some buffer. Childhood's pretty easy because the most complex social question and social issue we run across in childhood is somebody comes up and says, hey, I have a ball. You want to play? Or I like ice cream. Do you like ice cream? What's your favorite flavor? And for most of us as autistics, and I think as I've talked to other of my autistic friends, they've had similar experiences. For me, childhood was lonely to a certain degree. I mean, I was pretty isolated. I didn't really get other people, but I wasn't completely solitary. I always had at least that one friend, and that one friend usually sought me out in some way. I didn't really have to put forth or figure out how to be their friend. They kind of came to me and said, hey, you want to come spend the night at my house? Or, hey, you want to go swim? So childhood's a little easier for us as autistics, but when we hit that middle school point where everybody starts to hit puberty, boy, do things really change. All of a sudden, it's like living at the foot of a volcano. You're waiting for the next eruption, you're waiting for the next earthquake, and it's a constant state of flux. Nothing seems to make sense. What used to make sense is absolutely foreign. It is like people are all of a sudden speaking a different language. And in a lot of ways, they are. The social language has changed. And our brains have not quite figured it out yet at this point. Around 10 or 11 years old and up, it gets almost unmanageable some days. It's not until we're into our 40s that there's a shift. And I don't mean a social shift, I mean an internal shift. Whether we are autistic aware or we just reach a point on our own, we decide enough is enough. Burnouts and meltdowns that have ruled us have taken the last of our energy, and we are just done pretending to be who we think we are supposed to be because we're not really sure. Then we have to figure out who we really are, our authentic autistic selves. And the huge question when we reach this point is where to begin and how to do it. Those are the big questions. I've developed through personal research, trial and error, a process that worked for me and that I have shared with autistic friends, and it has worked to help them unmask too. It begins with self-awareness, but that isn't something we organically know how to do. I didn't say it's something we can't do or didn't have the skills to do. What I said is it is something we need to be clearly and concisely taught to do. It begins with know thyself. This week, we're going to start fresh. Begin at the beginning. Start anew. Go slower. Take it one step at a time at a much slower pace. If you need a faster pace, please message me and I will happily work with you one-on-one at your preferred pace. The new schedule is going to work like this. I'll put a video out on Friday, like today, and I'm going to give you a specific task, one specific task, and between now and Monday at noon, and the reason I have a cutoff point, there's a reason. Monday at noon, submit any question or any clarification that you need on the information from today's video. And at 7 o'clock on Monday evening, Eastern Time in the United States, I'm going to answer all of your questions live. So if you want to hear the answer live and you want to be able to send me some messages and say, okay, you answered this, but I'm still not clear, I will keep answering in as many different ways as it takes till you understand it. And I'm okay with that. And I will explain it as many times and in many different ways as will help you. Once we do that and you get some clarification and you get some additional answers if you need them Monday night, then continue to kind of work and process through your one question that I give you on Friday from the video. What we'll do is then on Wednesday, I will dive in just a little bit deeper and give you a reflection question on the one question that you've been working on from the week's video. The reason is the awareness process has to start with you figuring out where you are and becoming observant in a new way in your life and stepping back and becoming situationally aware in a way that you've never done before. And I'm not saying you have to do this on your own because you're not. I will tell you specific answers and specific ways and questions to ask yourself so that you'll know how to look at something or how to further identify or clarify something. Because part of what I came to understand in this process as I was doing this was that there were questions that I found for myself to answer that I had no idea I was supposed to know the answer to. things that may seem incredibly basic and sort of organic to the rest of the world did not show up on my radar. And I had no idea. I was completely clueless. I had no idea I was supposed to ask that question, much to myself, much less have an answer for it. Some of the things I wasn't even able to answer. And that made me more aware of what I didn't know and what I needed to find out. And that is the process that we are going to work through. And that is the journey we are going to take, because unmasking is about finding out what you do know about yourself and also learning about yourself, but knowing the questions to ask. That's the part I didn't know. That's the part I'm going to be giving you so that your journey through this unmasking process to get to the true, authentic, autistic you is much easier and faster. Now, not easier in the sense that this is not going to be hard, because it is. And it's not easy. But it's going to be easier because you're going to have someone to ask questions to. You're going to have support within the group. And you're going to be able to have a direction. And I'm going to give you a direction and a focus. Unmasking is about simply getting down to the essence and the heart of who you are, to know what your beliefs are, to know what your feelings are. And there's some science behind why that doesn't organically happen with us. And it has to do with the parts of our brain that engage and function in how we perceive the world. It also has to do with the neurotransmitters and how they work in our brain and how they connect and how our brain responds to those chemical messages. And it's not that we are incapable of doing it or that we don't have the skills to do it. It's that our brain simply works in a different way. And once we are made aware of it and we start to look at it, we start to look at different things, and the neuroplasticity that we all have kicks in, and we're able to exercise those neurons and start to build those networks in our brain that take us to that unmasking. So it begins with self-awareness. And since that's not something that we organically know how to do, we're uncovering it, and we're going to start one step at a time. This week, I want you to answer this one question if you already haven't. If last week you jumped into the journal prompt questions and this was something you already answered, great. I also want you to know that if you did answer it, I'm going to give you a little bit more insight, and I'm going to give you a little bit more information. So I want you to go back and reevaluate your answer to this question if you've already done it. The question for the week is this: describe in detail what your typical day entails, what it looks like, feels like from the time you wake up until you go to sleep. What do you do? Do you exercise? Do you watch TV? Do you read? Do you work? Do you paint? Do you game? I want you to be very specific. What do you eat? When do you eat? How much do you eat? Who is in your day? How do they influence or affect you? How do they influence or affect what you do and how you feel? How do you feel about your typical day? Okay, so let's go into this a little bit, segment by segment. I want you to simply, and if you can't answer this from your own reflection and self-knowledge, that's okay. Let me tell you how you answer this question, how you get this information. Get your journal, and for the next couple of days, I want you to just journal. Write down everything you do as you do it. Start to record your typical day. From the time you wake up, I want you to write down the time that you wake up. I want you to note, how do you feel when you wake up? The reason I ask this question is the way you feel when you first wake up is not how you're going to feel the rest of the day. So when you are aware and you're acknowledging how you feel when you first wake up in the morning, When you note how you're feeling later in the day or after you've stretched or exercised, I want you to note the difference in how you feel. I want to know, okay, when you first get up and your feet hit the floor, do you go to the bathroom first? I mean, do you head straight to the bathroom and you got to go to the bathroom? Once you do that, do you brush your teeth? Do you have your coffee first? Some mornings I have to brush my teeth first before I have my coffee. Other people are like, whoa, I can't do that. I got to have my coffee first, then I can brush my teeth. I brush my teeth before my coffee most days just because I wake up and I got funky breath. It doesn't matter if I brush my teeth before I go to bed. It just happens. And coffee just does not taste good like that. The next thing is, do you eat first thing in the morning? I want you to note what time of the day you eat. What do you eat exactly? Do you have a piece of toast, lightly toasted? Do you eat half of an avocado? Do you have a bowl of cereal? Do you use regular milk? Do you use whole milk? 2%. Be specific, because the more information that you can write down, and you don't have to do all of these things in one day, okay? That's an awful lot. Like if you wake up tomorrow morning and you say, okay, for the first hour of the day, I'll be really cognizant and aware of what I'm doing, and I'll write it down. And then after that, my day's got to go the way it's got to go. The next day, say, okay, I got sort of the first part of my morning written down yesterday. Today, I'm going to talk about, sort of the middle of my day. What does the middle of my day look like? So add to it slowly. This is not like dive in and do it all in one day. I mean, if that's your speed and that's what you can do, great. If not, take this next week to every day, just make a note. Add to the list of what your typical day looks like. Because a typical day is not a one-day screenshot. It's an accumulation of what becomes your routine. So note those things over different days. That's the best way to do this. You're going to get better information over a longer period of time than if you just dive in and do one day hardcore start to finish, okay? I want you to note, what do you put on? What do you wear? How does it make you feel when you put those clothes on? Who are the people in your day? Your spouse, your children, your roommate, your best friend. Who are the people that you spend the most time with? Who are the people typically in your day? Then I want you to think about, and maybe just do this, one person at a time over the course of the next week. And this is something that you'll evaluate, and it's going to take you a while. This is going to take a couple of weeks to go back and revisit this, okay? But this is where you've got to start. Because when you start to observe what your typical day looks like, it's giving you the information that you have not been fully aware of. And all of your awareness leads to your choices. So what choices are you making now? Whether it be active choices or is it choice by default? So the people that are in your life, how are they influencing you? Because, your children have some place that they have to be or something that they have to do. Their life is influencing yours, right? We all live in some sort of network and connection. Your spouse, what type of effect or influence do they have? Are there certain things that you do to help them? Are there certain things that they do to help you? When they're in a bad mood, are you in a bad mood? If you're in a bad mood, are you affecting the people around you? Not just their influence on you, but your influence on them. Be aware of those things. Make those notes as well. Think about and be aware of, as you're doing this, what do you do leading up to bedtime? How much time do you spend on a computer every day? How much time do you spend on your phone every day? What apps do you use most often? What are you doing on those apps? How are you engaging on those apps? Are you playing mindless games because you're passing the time, or you use those to decompress and that's part of your stress management? Are you on Facebook? If you're in certain groups or you engage with certain people, are you energized? Do they make you feel happy? Do they motivate you? Are you getting frustrated? Is it irritating you? Note those kinds of things. This isn't something that just happens overnight. You're not going to be able just to sit back and automatically know all these things. This is something that when you have the awareness to know to look for it and to think about it, then you become aware of it and you start to kind of uncover where you are, okay? I want you to note the hour or two leading up to when you normally go to bed. What do you do to unwind? Are you removing any type of technology so that you sleep better? Because there's some science behind that and blue screens and lots of things. Do you eat a late night snack before you go to bed? Typically, what is your normal bedtime? Do you go to bed between 10 and 10:30 every night like clockwork? Or does it vary between, 9 at night and 1 a.m.? Note those things. I want you to be aware of them because your sleep is critical. And as autistic people, sleep is one of our biggest challenges. Not getting enough, being constantly tired and feeling like you never have enough sleep, but you feel like you're sleeping all the time. All of these things vary. And noting those things and becoming aware of them and starting to see a pattern to create some notes for yourself and to see what actions help when you take them to improve or that maybe create a more difficult situation for yourself to sleep. Those things are important. That is part of the process. So I'm asking you to take this question, which is really big. It's a big question and it's in depth, but I want you to take it in just small chunks. Do what you can, journal what you can, and do it over a period of time. If you need some clarification, send it to me in the Facebook group, Socially Intelligent Autistic. If you've not yet joined the group to get the additional insights and support, please go to Facebook and search the Socially Intelligent Autistic and submit your questions to join the group. There you will find the weekly support. You will find all of the tools and information under the units tabs. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for being here and being brave and courageous because unmasking, it's not easy. It requires taking that first step. It requires being the bravest person you know. It requires courage. And just by being here today, you are brave and you are courageous. Please share with me what your questions are if you have any. Take the time to slowly digest this question. Be aware of how you spend your day and start making those notes. Question and answer session will be Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the Facebook group, Socially Intelligent Autistic, and I will post that as an event so that you guys don't miss it. Make sure you submit your questions, and I'll have something a specific place for you to submit those questions between now and Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And Wednesday, we'll dive a little bit deeper in talking about how this information from this question will take you to the next step. Have a great weekend.